A drunk's slurs echo through the saloon. Unnatural, degenerate. Carter crosses the room and drops him with one punch. Silence. Anyone else have something to say? Three identical brothers in the stable hand they all love face down the hostile crowd, fists ready. Before we dive in, comment where in the world you're watching from, and don't forget to click subscribe. The dust settled thick over Colts Ridge Ranch that morning, carrying with it the scent of leather, hay, and something else. Something that made the hair on the back of Jamie Dawson's neck stand straight up. Fear, maybe, or the feeling that walked right alongside it. The kind of knowing deep in your bones that today would change everything. Jamie stood in the stable doorway, rake in trembling hands, watching three riders crest the hill, like a vision torn straight from a fevered dream. Three men, identical down to the silver spurs that caught the morning sun like wildfire. The Colt brothers had come home, 20 years old, and Jamie had never seen anything like them. Not in all his days working the small ranches that dotted the valley, scraping by on honest work and hoping nobody looked too close. Hoping nobody asked questions a young man with soft hands and an even softer heart did not want to answer. But the Colt brothers were not the asking type. They were the taking type. And from the way all three sets of storm-gray eyes fixed on Jamie as they rode through the gate, he knew exactly what they had come to take. The eldest dismounted first. Cade. That is what the foreman had called him when he gave Jamie the warning that morning. Cade Colt, the one with the scar cutting through his left eyebrow and a reputation for breaking things, wild horses, bar fights, hearts. He was tall, broad-shouldered, with hands that looked like they could crush stone. Dark hair fell just past his collar. And when he walked, it was with the slow certainty of a man who had never been told no in his entire life. The second followed, Carter, quieter, but no less dangerous. His eyes were the color of winter steel, and they moved over Jamie like he was cataloging every breath, every nervous shift of weight. Where Cade was fire and fury, Carter was ice and calculation. The kind of cold that burned worse than any flame. He tilted his head just slightly as he studied Jamie, and a faint smile ghosted across his lips. The kind of smile that said he already knew every secret Jamie kept buried. Then came the third, Cole. The youngest by minutes, they said, but there was nothing young about the way he moved. Graceful. Predatory, like a mountain cat deciding whether to pounce or play with its food first. His grin was wicked, all white teeth and promises Jamie did not understand but felt somewhere deep in his chest. Somewhere that made his pulse race and his palms slick with sweat that had nothing to do with the heat. You must be the new stable hand. Cade's voice rolled across the yard like thunder before a storm. Deep, rough. The kind of voice that made Jamie forget how to speak. Jamie nodded, throat too tight for words. Cade stepped closer, then closer still, until Jamie could smell the leather of his vest, the faint trace of whiskey and tobacco, and something underneath. Something earthy and warm that made Jamie want to lean in, despite every instinct screaming at him to run. "What is your name?" This time it was Carter who spoke, his voice softer but no less commanding. "Jamie Dawson, sir." Jamie managed, hating how his voice cracked on the last word. The three brothers exchanged a look. Something passed between them, something that made Jamie's stomach drop like a stone in a well. "Sir," Cole repeated, his grin widening. "Ain't that sweet? We got ourselves a polite one, brothers." Cade reached out, and Jamie flinched before he could stop himself. But the hand did not strike. Instead, calloused fingers caught Jamie's chin, tilting his face up toward the unforgiving sun, forcing Jamie to meet eyes that saw too much. "Easy now," Cade murmured, his thumb brushing along Jamie's jawline. "We do not bite, unless you ask real nice." Heat flooded Jamie's face, and somewhere behind him, Cole laughed, low and knowing. The foreman appeared then, mercifully, calling the brothers away to discuss ranch business. But not before Cade leaned in close, his breath hot against Jamie's ear. "You stay close, Jamie Dawson. We will be needing you." It was not a request. Jamie stood frozen long after they walked away, heart hammering against his ribs like it was trying to escape, trying to warn him. But warn him of what? Danger? Or something far more terrifying? The pull he already felt toward three men who looked at him like he was something precious, something to be claimed. By noon, the sun beat down merciless as judgment, and Jamie worked the stables with single-minded focus. Anything to avoid thinking about the way Cade's fingers had felt on his skin, the way Carter's eyes had stripped him bare without ever touching him, the way Cole's laughter had curled in his belly like smoke. He mucked stalls, hauled water, brushed down horses until his arms ached. But no amount of work could quiet the restless energy thrumming through his veins. The black stallion in the far stall pawed at the ground, restless. Jamie recognized that feeling. Caged, wanting to run, but having nowhere to go. He slipped into the stall, speaking low and soft. "Easy now. I know how you feel." The horse's ears flicked back, listening. Jamie ran his hand down the powerful neck, feeling the tremor of barely contained strength beneath sleek hide. This was where he belonged, with creatures who did not ask questions, who did not expect explanations, who did not look at him with eyes that promised things he could not name. "He is beautiful." Jamie startled so hard he nearly lost his footing. Cade stood at the stall door, one boot propped on the lower rail, arms crossed over his broad chest. How long had he been watching? "That one threw 3 men yesterday," Cade continued, his eyes never leaving Jamie. "Sent one to the dock with a broken arm. But he is calm with you." Jamie swallowed hard, very aware of how small the stall suddenly felt. He just needs patience, understanding. Cade's lips curved into something that was not quite a smile. "Is that what you need, Jamie?" Patience? The question hung heavy between them, loaded with meaning Jamie was afraid to unpack. "I should. I have work to do." He moved toward the stall door, but Cade did not step back, did not give him room to escape. Instead, he reached out and caught a piece of straw tangled in Jamie's hair. His fingers brushed Jamie's temple, barely a whisper of contact, but it sent electricity racing down Jamie's spine. "You had something," Cade murmured, his voice gone rough and low. Jamie could not breathe, could not think. Cade was so close he could see the gold flecks in those storm-gray eyes, could smell leather and summer heat and something purely male that made Jamie's knees weak. "Thank you." The words came out barely above a whisper. Cade's gaze dropped to Jamie's mouth, and the hunger there was unmistakable. Raw. "You're welcome." He stepped back then, finally giving Jamie room to breathe. But the intensity in his eyes did not fade. "We will talk later, you and me, about what you need, what you want, what you are too afraid to ask for." Then he was gone, leaving Jamie trembling against the stall door, heart racing like he had just run a mile. The stallion nickered softly behind him, and Jamie laughed shakily. "Yeah, I know. I am in trouble. Deep, dangerous, delicious trouble. The kind that could destroy him or remake him entirely." And the terrifying part was, Jamie was not sure which outcome he feared more, because destruction had never looked so appealing, had never felt so much like salvation. "You work hard." Jamie spun around to find Carter leaning against the stable door, arms crossed over his chest. "How long have you been standing there?" Jamie demanded, then immediately regretted the sharp edge in his voice. Carter's lips quirked. "Long enough to see you are running from something, but I cannot figure out if it is us or yourself." Jamie's jaw tightened. "I don't know what you mean." Do you not? Carter pushed off the door frame and stepped inside, closing the distance between them with measured steps. Because the way I see it, you're terrified, not of us, but of what you feel when we are near. Jamie's back hit the stable wall. He had not even realized he was retreating. I do not feel anything. The lie tasted bitter on his tongue. Carter was close now, too close. Near enough that Jamie could see the flecks of silver in those winter eyes. Near enough to feel the heat radiating off skin that should have been cold as his gaze. Liar. Carter breathed the word against Jamie's cheek, and every nerve in Jamie's body came alive. Screaming. Carter's hand came up slowly, giving Jamie every chance to pull away. But Jamie stood frozen as those long fingers traced the line of his jaw, the curve of his throat, the rapid flutter of his pulse. You feel this? Carter murmured, pressing his thumb against Jamie's racing heartbeat. Your body knows what your mind is trying to deny. Jamie's eyes fluttered closed, overwhelmed by sensation, by the calloused warmth of Carter's touch, by the way his own body was betraying him. Leaning into that contact like a man dying of thirst finally finding water. Please. Jamie did not know what he was begging for anymore. For Carter to stop, to continue, to explain why Jamie felt like he was coming apart at the seams. Please what? Carter's voice was velvet over steel. Tell me what you want, Jamie. Say it out loud. Make it real. But Jamie could not. The words were locked somewhere deep inside, tangled up with years of shame and fear and desperate longing. I cannot. The admission broke something inside him, and suddenly there were tears burning behind his eyes. Carter's expression softened instantly. His other hand came up to cradle Jamie's face, thumbs brushing away tears that had not quite fallen. Hey, it is all right. You do not have to say anything you are not ready for. We can go slow as you need. Jamie's breath hitched. Why? Why do you even want someone like me? I'm nothing, nobody. A drifter with no family, no future, no. Stop. Carter's voice was sharp enough to cut through Jamie's spiral. You're not nothing. You are brave and skilled and beautiful. And when you smile, which you do not do nearly enough, it is like the sun coming out. Jamie's eyes opened, meeting Carter's intense gaze. You barely know me. I know enough, Carter countered. I know you gentle horses that other men break. I know you work twice as hard as anyone else to prove your worth. I know you think you have to hide who you are to survive. And I know that when I touch you like this. His thumb traced Jamie's lower lip, and Jamie's breath stuttered. You stop hiding, even if just for a moment. That is the real you. That is who we want. The tenderness in Carter's voice, in his touch, was almost harder to bear than the desire. Jamie could have fought desire, could have run from it. But this careful, patient understanding, this willingness to see past every wall Jamie had built, it terrified him more than anything. What if I cannot be what you want? What if I disappoint you? Carter's smile was sad. Sweet. The only way you could disappoint us is if you keep running from yourself. From this. We are not asking you to be perfect, Jamie. We are just asking you to be honest. With us. With yourself. What do you want from me? Jamie whispered, hating how desperate he sounded. Carter's hand came up, fingertips ghosting along Jamie's collarbone through the thin cotton of his work shirt. Everything. The answer was simple, devastating. Your trust, your truth, your surrender. We want to know every secret you have been carrying, every desire you have been denying. We want to give you a place where you do not have to pretend anymore, where you can just be. He paused, his gaze searching Jamie's face. But only if that is what you want too. And before Jamie could respond, before he could think, Carter stepped back, leaving Jamie gasping like he had been underwater, and finally broke the surface. Think about it, Carter said quietly. But don't take too long. Because my brothers and I, we are not patient men by nature, and the wanting. He let his gaze travel slowly down Jamie's body and back up, leaving heat in its wake. It is getting harder to control. With that, he turned and walked out, leaving Jamie trembling against the wall, wondering what he had just agreed to without saying a word. That evening, Jamie tried to keep his head down during supper. The ranch hands gathered in the bunkhouse, passing plates and stories, but Jamie sat at the far end of the table, picking at his food. He could feel their eyes on him. The Colt brothers sat together near the head of the table, and every time Jamie glanced up, one of them was watching, Cade with that intense focus that made Jamie feel hunted, Carter with cool assessment, Cole with barely contained amusement. "You settling in all right? Dawson?" The foreman's question drew everyone's attention. Jamie nodded quickly. "Yes, sir." "Fine. Just fine." Cole snorted. "Fine? That is a mighty weak word for a man who handles horses the way you do. Watched you this afternoon. You got a gift." Jamie's throat went dry. I grew up around them is all." "On your family's ranch?" Cade asked, his tone casual but his eyes sharp. Jamie's hands tightened on his fork. "Something like that." The silence that followed pressed heavy, and Jamie knew they could smell the evasion. Knew they were cataloging it, along with everything else they had learned about him today. "Must have been hard," Carter said quietly. "Leaving home, working your way ranch to ranch, all alone." Jamie's eyes snapped to his, and what he saw there stole his breath. Understanding, like Carter knew exactly what it meant to be running, to be searching for a place that felt safe. "I manage." Jamie forced the words out. Carter held his gaze a moment longer, then nodded slowly. "I am sure you do, but you do not have to. Not anymore." The promise in those words settled over Jamie like a brand. Hot, permanent, terrifying. He excused himself before anyone could see how badly his hands were shaken, practically fled to the small room he had been given off the tack room. It was not much, just a cot, a trunk, and a window that looked out over the corral. But it was his, private, safe, or so he thought, until Cole appeared in the doorway an hour later, leaning against the frame like he had been invited. "You should not be here," Jamie said, trying to sound firm, trying to ignore the way his heart kicked against his ribs. Cole's grin was pure sin. "Probably not, but here I am anyway." He stepped inside and closed the door behind him. The small room suddenly felt impossibly smaller. "What do you want?" Jamie demanded, backing up until his legs hit the cot. Cole tilted his head, studying Jamie like he was a puzzle to be solved. "To understand you. Why a man with your skill is working for pennies when he could have his own place, his own herd. Maybe I like the freedom." Jamie shot back. Cole laughed, but there was no humor in it. "Freedom? That what you call this? Running from ranch to ranch, never staying long enough to put down roots? Never letting anyone get close?" He moved closer, and Jamie could not retreat any further. "That ain't freedom, Jamie. That is a cage you built yourself, and I think you are getting mighty tired of rattling around inside it." Jamie's hands clenched into fists at his sides. "You do not know anything about me, do I not?" Cole's voice dropped lower, intimate. "I know what it is like to want something you have been told is wrong. To feel desire burning through your veins and have nowhere to put it. Nowhere safe. I know what it is like to look at someone and feel like you are drowning and flying all at once." He was so close now that Jamie could feel the heat radiating off him, could see the way Cole's pupils had blown wide with want. "Tell me I am wrong." Jamie could not speak, could not move. Cole's hand came up, hovering just above Jamie's chest, not quite touching, but close enough that Jamie could feel the almost contact like electricity. "Your heart is racing," Cole observed, "and you are breathing like you just ran a mile. That is not fear, Jamie. Or if it is the good kind. The kind that means you are alive, that you are feeling. Jamie's breath caught as Cole's fingers finally made contact, pressing gently over his hammering heartbeat. "This," Cole whispered. "This is honest. This does not lie. Stop." Jamie managed, but it came out weak, unconvincing. Cole's other hand rose to frame Jamie's face, his thumb brushing over Jamie's parted lips. "You do not want me to stop. You want me to keep going, to push you past this fear, until all that is left is the feeling, the wanting, the truth." Jamie shook his head, even as his body swayed toward Cole's touch. "I cannot." "Why not?" Cole challenged. "Because someone told you it was wrong? Because you are afraid of what it means? Or because you are terrified of how much you want it?" "All of it." Jamie's voice broke on the admission. "All of it scares me." Cole's expression gentled, and he leaned his forehead against Jamie's. "I know, but you do not have to be scared alone anymore. My brothers and I, we have been where you are. We know what it costs to hide, to deny, and we know what it feels like when you finally stop fighting and let yourself just feel." Jamie's eyes burned with unshed tears. "What if I cannot? What if I try and I fail? Then we try again," Cole promised, "and again, and again, until you believe that this thing between us is real, that it is good, that you deserve it." Jamie's resolve was crumbling. He could feel it happening, feel every wall he had built starting to crack under the weight of Cole's words. Cole's touch, the sincerity in those wild eyes. "I do not know how to do this. I do not know how to be what you want." "You already are," Cole insisted. "You just have to stop running long enough to see it." His hand slid down to Jamie's shoulders, steadying, grounding. "We are not asking you to change. We are asking you to stop pretending, to let yourself want, to let yourself be wanted in return." The room was too warm, too small, too full of possibility that terrified Jamie more than any threat ever had. Because threats he understood, danger he could run from. But this gentle, persistent dismantling of everything he thought he knew about himself, there was no running from that. Cole seemed to sense Jamie's internal war. His hands gentled on Jamie's shoulders. "I am going to go now. Before I do something we are not ready for. But Jamie, this thing between us, between you and my brothers, it is not going away. You can run if you want, but we will be here when you are ready to stop." He stepped back slowly, his hands trailing down Jamie's arms before finally falling away. And the loss of contact felt like losing warmth in the middle of winter. "Think about what you want," Cole said, as he reached the door. "Not what you have been told to want, not what is safe or easy, what you actually want. Deep down in that place you've been trying so hard to ignore. Then let us know. We will be waiting." He left as quietly as he had come, and Jamie collapsed onto the cot, head in his hands, trying to remember how to breathe. Sleep did not come easy. Jamie lay in the dark, listening to the night sounds of the ranch, horses shifting in their stalls, the creak of wood settling, his own racing heartbeat. And underneath it all, the weight of 3 sets of eyes that had seen straight through every wall he had ever built. They knew. Somehow they knew what Jamie had spent years hiding, not just from the world, from himself. The truth he had buried so deep he almost believed it did not exist. But it did exist. Here, now, in the way his body responded to their nearness, in the heat that flooded through him when Cade touched him, the ache that settled low in his belly when Carter's gaze pinned him in place, the breathless anticipation when Cole grinned like they shared a secret. Jamie had run from ranch to ranch, town to town, trying to outrun himself, trying to be invisible, safe, normal. And in one day, 3 men who looked like they had been carved from the same wild stone had torn through every defense he had. The question was not whether they wanted him. That much was clear as the stars burning overhead. The question was whether Jamie was brave enough to want them back, to reach for something he had been taught was wrong, dangerous, impossible, to let himself be seen, to let himself feel. The dawn would come soon enough, and with it, a choice Jamie could not avoid forever. Run or stay, hide or surrender to the fire he felt building every time one of the Colt brothers came near. Morning arrived wrapped in fog so thick Jamie could barely see his hand in front of his face. He dressed in the pre-dawn darkness, muscles aching from yesterday's work and a night of restless sleep. The stable needed tending, horses needed feeding. Work was the one constant he could rely on when everything else felt like shifting sand. But when he stepped outside, he found Cade already there, leaning against the stable door, like he had been waiting. Like he had all the time in the world. Morning. Cade's voice was rougher than usual, raw from sleep or smoke or something else entirely. Jamie swallowed hard. Morning. They stood there in the fog-laden silence. The world narrowed down to just the two of them. Finally, Cade pushed off the door. "Come with me. I want to show you something." It was not a question, but Jamie found himself nodding anyway, following as Cade led him through the mist, away from the main buildings toward the far pasture where the land rolled up into foothills. "Where are we going?" Jamie asked, after they had walked in silence for what felt like miles. "Somewhere we can talk," Cade answered without looking back. "Somewhere my brothers will not interrupt." That should have worried Jamie more than it did. Should have sent him running back to the safety of the stables. Instead, his feet kept moving forward, pulled by something stronger than fear, stronger than sense. They climbed until the fog began to thin, until they stood on a ridge overlooking the entire valley. The ranch spread below like a toy, and beyond it, the wild country stretched endless. The view stole Jamie's breath. The valley below was still wrapped in mist, but up here the sky was beginning to lighten, streaks of pink and gold painting the horizon. It was beautiful, savage, like the land itself was something wild and untamed. Cade stood at the edge, his profile sharp against the coming dawn. "This is my favorite place," he said quietly. "When everything gets too loud, too complicated, I come here. Remember what matters." Jamie moved closer, drawn despite himself. "What matters?" Cade turned to face Jamie, and the vulnerability in his expression was stunning. "This, the land, my brothers, building something that is ours, something nobody can take away." He paused, his gaze intense. "And now? Now that includes you." Jamie's heart stuttered. "You do not even know me." "I know enough," Cade countered. "I know you are running from something. I know you work harder than any 3 men just to prove you deserve to exist. I know you think you have to hide who you are to survive. And I know," his voice dropped lower, intimate, "that when I touched you yesterday, you did not pull away. Not really." Jamie's breath came faster, his chest tight. "That does not mean anything, does it not?" Cade stepped closer. "Because I felt it too. That spark, that recognition, like looking at someone and seeing home for the first time." Jamie shook his head even as his body swayed toward Cade's. "You do not understand. I am not. I cannot be what you think I am." "And what do I think you are?" Cade challenged. Jamie opened his mouth, then closed it again, unable to find words for what he was trying to say, for the truth he had spent years denying. Cade stopped at the edge and turned to face Jamie, the rising sun just starting to burn through the mist behind him. "You ever feel like you do not belong anywhere? Like no matter where you go, you are always on the outside looking in?" Jamie's chest tightened. "Every day of my life." Cade nodded slowly. "Me too. All of us. My brothers and I. We are different. People sense it even if they do not understand it. We do not fit their neat little boxes, their expectations. So we learn to make our own place, our own rules." He reached out then, slowly enough that Jamie could have stepped back, but Jamie stood frozen as Cade's hand settled on his shoulder. Warm, solid, real. We built this ranch with our own hands, carved out a life that lets us be who we are, without apology, without shame. And when I saw you standing there yesterday, Cade's other hand came up to cup Jamie's face. I saw someone who needs the same thing, who is tired of running, tired of hiding, ready to stop even if he does not know it yet. What does that have to do with me? Jamie whispered. Everything. Cade stepped closer, and this time Jamie did not retreat, because the moment I saw you standing there yesterday, I knew you are like us. Ooh. Running from a world that will never understand, never accept. But you do not have to run anymore, Jamie. Not if you do not want to. Jamie shook his head, even as hope flared dangerous in his chest. You do not understand. What I am, what I have been taught is wrong. Cade's hand came up, cupping Jamie's face with surprising gentleness. I understand better than you think. You think you are the only one who has wanted something the world says you should not have? You think my brothers and I built this ranch, this life, without facing down every condemnation imaginable? Jamie's breath caught. What are you saying? I am saying. Cade's thumb traced Jamie's cheekbone. That desire is not wrong just because someone else is afraid of it. And whatever you feel when we are near, that fire burning under your skin, that is yours. You get to decide what to do with it. Not them. Not anyone else. You. Jamie closed his eyes, feeling tears prick behind his lids. I don't know how to want, how to let myself. The words broke off, too raw to continue. Then let us teach you. Cade's voice was low, reverent. Let us show you what it feels like to be wanted exactly as you are. No hiding, no shame. Just you and us and whatever this thing is building between us. Jamie's eyes opened, meeting Cade's storm-gray gaze head-on. And if I cannot, if I am too broken, then we'll put you back together, Cade promised. One piece at a time, for as long as it takes. The sun crested the horizon then, burning away the last of the fog and bathing them both in gold. And standing there on that ridge, with Cade's hand still cradling his face like something precious, Jamie felt something inside him crack wide open. Years of hiding, of denying, of running from the truth of who he was and what he wanted. It all came pouring out in the space between one heartbeat and the next. I'm scared, Jamie admitted. Good. Cade's lips quirked. Fear means it matters, means you are willing to risk something for it. For us, the walk back down the ridge was different than the climb up. Cade's hand found Jamie's halfway down, their fingers threading together like it was the most natural thing in the world, like they had been doing it for years instead of days. Jamie tried not to think about how right it felt, how terrifying, how inevitable. When they reached level ground, Cade squeezed his hand once before letting go. Tonight, he said. After supper, we need to talk, all four of us, about what happens next. Jamie's stomach flipped. Tonight. He echoed, not sure if it was a promise or a warning. The afternoon brought work that Jamie threw himself into with almost desperate energy. Mucking stalls, mending tack, anything to keep his hands busy and his mind from spinning in circles. But everywhere he turned, one of the brothers was there. Carter helping repair a fence, his eyes finding Jamie's across the yard. Cole, working with a young colt, grinning when he caught Jamie watching. Cade directing ranch hands, his presence a constant weight Jamie could feel, even when he was not looking. Around mid-afternoon, the heat became unbearable. Jamie stripped off his shirt, using it to wipe the sweat from his face and neck. When he looked up, all three brothers had stopped what they were doing. Were staring at him with identical expressions of hunger that made Jamie's skin flush hot for reasons that had nothing to do with the sun. He quickly pulled his shirt back on, but the damage was done. He had seen the want in their eyes, had felt it echo in his own body. There was no pretending anymore, no hiding from what was building between them. Carter found him in the tack room later, allegedly looking for leather oil, but the way he crowded into the small space, the way his eyes tracked every movement Jamie made, suggested he had come looking for something else entirely. "You're thinking too hard," Carter observed, leaning against the workbench. "I can see the wheels turning. Trying to talk yourself out of this." Jamie's hand stilled on the bridle he was mending. "Maybe I should?" "Why?" Carter challenged. "Give me one good reason that is not based on fear or what other people think." Jamie could not. Every argument he tried to form dissolved before it reached his lips. Carter moved closer, his hand covering Jamie's on the leather. "You feel it. I know you do. This pull between us, like gravity, like fate. And you can fight it all you want, but it is not going away." Jamie's throat was tight. "What if I cannot be what you need? What if this ends badly? Then at least we will have tried." Carter said simply, "At least we will have been honest." That is more than most people get. His fingers traced the line of Jamie's jaw, gentle but sure. "My brothers and I have been alone our whole lives. Different. Wrong, according to everyone else. But then you walked into our lives and suddenly..." He paused, searching for words. Suddenly it all made sense. Why we waited. Why we never settled for anything less than what we actually wanted. We were waiting for you. The words hit Jamie like a physical blow, stealing his breath, making his eyes burn. "How can you be so sure?" "Because I see the way you look at us when you think we are not watching." Carter's voice was rough with emotion. "Like you are drowning and we are air. Like you are starving and we are sustenance. You want this just as much as we do. You're just too scared to reach for it." Jamie's resolve crumbled a little more. "And if I reach and it breaks me, then we will catch you," Carter promised. "Every single time. That is what this is. What we are offering. Not just desire, not just want, but safety, home, a place where you do not have to pretend anymore." Jamie could not take it anymore. The tenderness, the certainty, the way Carter looked at him like he was something precious instead of broken. He pulled away, putting distance between them before he did something stupid. Like believe, like hope, like surrender. "I need to think." His voice came out shaky. Carter nodded slowly. "Then think. But while you do, remember this." He closed the distance Jamie had created in 2 long strides, caught Jamie's face in both hands, and kissed him. It was not rough or demanding. It was gentle, reverent, a question instead of a command. And Jamie, God help him, answered, his lips parting under Carter's, his hands coming up to grip Carter's shirt, his entire body leaning into the contact like a plant toward the sun. The kiss lasted only seconds, but felt like eternity. When Carter pulled back, his eyes were blazing. Think about that. He murmured against Jamie's lips. Think about how right it felt. How good. And then tonight, you can decide if you want more. He left Jamie trembling in the tack room, fingers pressed to lips that still tingled from the contact. Jamie's first kiss with a man, his first taste of what it could be like to stop running, to let himself want, to let himself be wanted in return. And as terrifying as it was, as much as every instinct screamed at him to flee, Jamie could not deny the truth. It had felt right, like coming home after a lifetime of wandering, like finally finding where he belonged. They stood there as the sun climbed higher, neither willing to break the moment. Finally, Cade stepped back, letting his hand fall away. "Come on, we should get back before my brothers send out a search party." But as they walked back down the ridge, Jamie felt different, lighter, like he had set down a burden he had been carrying so long he forgot it was there. Cade's words echoed in his mind. You get to decide. Not them. You. And for the first time in his life, Jamie thought he might be ready to decide. To choose. To reach for what he wanted, instead of running from it. When they reached the stable, Carter and Cole were waiting. Their expressions said they knew exactly where Cade and Jamie had been, what they had talked about. Carter's eyes met Jamie's, searching, finding whatever he was looking for because he nodded once, slow and deliberate. Cole's grin was knowing, wicked. Welcome back, he said to Jamie. Though whether he meant from the ridge or from wherever Jamie had been hiding for the past 20 years, Jamie could not say. Maybe both. The day passed in a blur of work and stolen glances. Every time Jamie turned around, one of the brothers was there, not crowding, just present. A reminder that he was not alone anymore, that he had a choice to make. That evening after supper, Jamie found all three of them waiting outside his door. His heart kicked into his throat. We need to talk, Carter said quietly. The four of them, about what happens next. Jamie nodded, stepping aside to let them in. The small room was not built for four grown men, and suddenly Jamie was surrounded, drowning in their presence, their heat, the certainty in their eyes. Cade spoke first. We want you, Jamie, all three of us, and not just for a night or a week. We want you to stay, to build something with us, something real. Carter stepped closer. We know this is new for you. Terrifying maybe, but we promise to go as slow as you need, to never push you further than you are ready for. This is your choice, your pace, always. Cole's hand found Jamie's, threading their fingers together. But know this, once you are ours, we do not let go. We protect what is ours, fight for it, die for it if we have to. So if you're going to run, do it now, before we fall any deeper, before this becomes something none of us can walk away from. Jamie looked at each of them in turn. Cade with his fierce intensity, Carter with his quiet strength, Cole with his wild, reckless heart. Three men who should not want him, should not see anything worth keeping in a broken stable hand with too many secrets and not enough courage. But they did. They saw him, all of him, and they were offering something Jamie had stopped believing in a long time ago. A home, not just a place, but people, connection, the chance to stop running and start living. I am not going to run, Jamie whispered. The words felt like jumping off a cliff, felt like flying. The relief that washed over their faces was almost painful to witness. Then Cade was there, pulling Jamie against him in an embrace that felt like coming home. Carter's hand settled warm on Jamie's back. Cole pressed close to his side, and surrounded by three men who wanted him for reasons he was only beginning to understand, Jamie let himself believe, just for a moment, that maybe he deserved this, deserved them, deserved to be happy, to be wanted, to be seen. The road ahead wouldn't be easy. There would be judgment, danger, challenges he could not even imagine yet. But standing there in the circle of their arms, Jamie thought maybe, just maybe, he was finally ready to stop running and start fighting. For them, for this, for himself. Thank you for being here. If this story stirred something in you, memories of dusty sunsets and the echo of hoofbeats pounding in your heart, then subscribe to my channel. Every day we can sit together once more, and I will tell you another story from the Wild West. A story where love has no boundaries and desire knows no limits, where three brothers and one trembling soul found each other in the dust and decided to build something beautiful, something real, something worth fighting for. And this is only the beginning. Evening came too fast and not fast enough. Jamie stood outside his small room, hand on the doorknob, trying to steady his racing heart. Inside, he could hear the low rumble of voices. The Colt brothers were already waiting, all three of them. And once he stepped through that door, There would be no going back. No more pretending he did not want this. Want them. He took a breath, then another, then pushed the door open. They had rearranged the small space, his cot pushed against the wall, the trunk serving as a makeshift seat, and in the center of the room, the three brothers stood like they had been carved from the same stone, waiting, watching. Jamie stepped inside and closed the door behind him. The click of the latch sounded impossibly loud in the silence. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then Cade moved forward, his boots heavy on the wooden floor. "You came." Relief colored his voice, like he had genuinely feared Jamie would run. "Did you think I would not?" Jamie asked, surprised to find his voice steady. Cole's lips quirked. "Honestly? Yeah. We thought there was a 50-50 chance you would be halfway to the next territory by now." Jamie shook his head slowly. "I am done running." The words felt like a vow, like a prayer, like jumping off a cliff and trusting someone would catch him. The brothers exchanged glances, something passing between them that Jamie could not quite read. Then Carter spoke, his voice careful, measured. "We need to be clear about what this is, what we are asking for." Jamie's throat went tight, but he nodded. Carter continued, stepping closer. "We do not want just a night with you, Jamie. We do not want something temporary or hidden or ashamed. We want you to stay, to be ours, all three of ours, the way we will be yours." Jamie's knees felt weak. He reached back, bracing himself against the door. That is, he struggled for words. That is not how things work. People do not. Three men do not. His voice faltered. Cade's expression was fierce. People do not get to tell us how to live our lives, how to love, how to build a family. We make our own rules, Jamie. Always have. Love. The word hung in the air like smoke, heavy, undeniable. Cole moved to Jamie's side, not touching but close enough that Jamie could feel his warmth. "I know it is fast. I know it probably seems crazy. But when you know, you know. And we know. All three of us. The question is." His eyes searched Jamie's face. "Do you?" Jamie looked at each of them in turn. Cade with his protective intensity. Carter with his patient understanding. Cole with his wild, reckless heart. Three men who should not want him, who had no reason to see anything worth keeping in a broken stable hand running from his past. But they did. They saw him, all of him. The parts he showed the world and the parts he tried to hide. And instead of turning away in disgust or pity, they had stepped closer, offered shelter, offered home, offered something Jamie had stopped believing existed. "I am terrified," Jamie admitted, his voice barely above a whisper. "Of this, of you, of how much I already want something I have spent my whole life being told is wrong, sinful, impossible." Cade closed the remaining distance between them, his hand finding Jamie's. "Then let us show you how possible it is." Carter moved to Jamie's other side, his fingers threading through Jamie's hair. How right. Cole pressed against Jamie's back, solid and warm and real. How good it can be when you stop fighting what you want. And just let yourself feel. Jamie was surrounded, drowning in their nearness, their scent. The heat of three bodies pressed close. His breath came faster, shallow. "I don't know how." The confession broke on a sob. "I do not know how to do this, to be this." "You do not have to know," Cade murmured against his temple. "You just have to trust us. Can you do that?" Jamie's eyes burned with tears he refused to let fall. "I want to. God, I want to." "Then that is enough," Carter said gently. "For now, that is enough." They stood there, the four of them tangled together in the small room. And slowly, Jamie felt something inside him begin to unclench, the tight knot of fear and shame he had carried for so long starting to loosen. not disappearing, but becoming bearable, manageable, because he was not alone anymore. He had never been meant to carry this burden by himself. Cole's lips brushed the back of Jamie's neck, and Jamie's breath stuttered. "Is this okay?" Cole asked, his voice rough with restraint. Jamie could only nod, words beyond him. Carter's hand tightened in his hair, tilting Jamie's head back. "And this?" "Yes." The word came out broken, desperate. Cade's thumb traced Jamie's lower lip, his eyes dark with want. "And if I kissed you, would that be okay?" Jamie's answer was to surge forward, closing the distance himself, claiming what he wanted instead of waiting for permission. The kiss was nothing like Carter's gentle question in the tack room. This was hunger, need, years of denial burning away in the heat between them. Cade's hands came up to frame Jamie's face, holding him like something precious even as his mouth devoured. Behind him, Cole's teeth scraped Jamie's shoulder through his shirt, and Carter's fingers worked the buttons at Jamie's collar. Too many sensations, too much feeling. Jamie thought he might fly apart from it, might dissolve into nothing but want and need, and finally letting himself have what he had always been denied. When Cade pulled back, they were both breathing hard. Jamie's lips felt swollen, bruised, perfect. Carter spun him around, and then it was his turn. His kiss was different, slower, deeper, like he was mapping every inch of Jamie's mouth, learning him, claiming him. Cole's hands roamed over Jamie's chest, his stomach, his sides, never quite crossing into forbidden territory, but promising, hinting at where this could go, where it would go, when Jamie was ready. Then Cole was turning him again, and Jamie found himself pressed against the youngest brother. Cole's grin was wicked, even as his eyes shone with something tender. My turn. He did not wait for an answer, just took, and Jamie gave everything he had been holding back, every secret want, every forbidden desire, every piece of himself he thought he would have to keep hidden forever. Cole kissed like he did everything else, wild, uninhibited, free, and for the first time in his life, Jamie kissed back the same way. When they finally broke apart, Jamie was trembling. His knees had given out at some point, and only the brothers' hands kept him upright. Cade's arm around his waist, Carter's hand on his shoulder, Cole's grip on his hip, anchoring him, keeping him whole when he felt like he was shattering into 1,000 pieces. That was. Jamie could not finish the sentence, did not have words for what that was. Perfect, Carter supplied. Right, Cade added. Just the beginning, Cole promised, his voice rough with want. Cade guided Jamie to the cot, helping him sit before his legs gave out completely. The three brothers knelt around him, and something about seeing them like this, powerful men on their knees, looking up at Jamie like he was something holy, it broke the last of Jamie's resistance. I want this, Jamie said clearly. I want you. All of you. I do not care if it is wrong. I do not care what anyone else thinks. His voice cracked. I just want to stop feeling so alone. You will never be alone again, Cade vowed, his hand covering Jamie's heart. We promise. Carter's fingers found Jamie's, threading their hands together. Whatever comes, whatever challenges we face them together. Cole's grin was softer now. Genuine, the four of us against the world, just like it was always meant to be. Jamie looked at their joined hands, at three faces that had already become more familiar than his own reflection, and he believed them. Believed in this impossible thing they were building. Believed that maybe, just maybe, he deserved it. Deserved them. Deserved to be happy. The night stretched long and warm around them. They did not rush, did not push Jamie beyond what he was ready for. Instead, they talked. Shared stories. Cade spoke of building the ranch from nothing, of fighting for every acre against men who wanted to see them fail. Carter told of growing up different, of learning to trust his brothers above all else. Cole confessed his fears, that they would never find someone who understood, who fit, who made their strange little family complete. And Jamie told them everything, about growing up knowing he was different, about the fear every time someone looked at him too long, about the preacher who said boys like him were damned, about running from town to town, ranch to ranch, always looking over his shoulder, always waiting for someone to see the truth and drive him away. The words poured out like poison being drawn from a wound. And the brothers listened, did not judge, did not flinch, just held him tighter and promised he would never have to run again. Not from them, not from himself, not from the truth of who he was meant to be. Eventually, exhaustion claimed them. They arranged themselves on the too small cot. Jamie in the middle, Kate at his back, Carter curled against his front, Cole sprawled across their legs. It should have been uncomfortable, cramped, too hot. Instead, it was perfect. Jamie lay there listening to 3 heartbeats synchronize with his own, feeling 3 chests rise and fall in sleep. And for the first time in longer than he could remember, he felt safe, wanted, home. Sleep took him gently, wrapped in arms that promised to hold him through whatever came next. Dawn came soft and golden through the small window. Jamie woke slowly, aware of warmth surrounding him, of hands stroking gentle through his hair, of lips pressed to his shoulder. Morning. Cade's voice was rough with sleep. Morning, Jamie murmured back, not wanting to move, not wanting to break this spell. But reality crept in anyway. The ranch would be waking soon. Work needed doing. And 4 men tangled together in a bed the size of a whisper would raise questions. Dangerous questions. In a world that did not understand, that would not forgive. As if reading his thoughts, Carter spoke. We need to talk about how this works. Jamie's stomach clenched. Here it comes. The reality check. The explanation of why they had to hide, had to pretend, had to go back to being strangers in the daylight. But Carter continued, surprising him. We have been careful for years, never flaunting but never hiding either. The ranch hands know we are different. They do not ask questions because we pay well and treat them fair. Some suspect, most do not care. As long as the work gets done, people tend to mind their business out here. Cole sat up, stretching. What Carter is trying to say is, we do not parade our private life through town, but we do not apologize for it either. You will sleep here, with us, in the main house. Anyone who has a problem with it can find work elsewhere. Jamie's eyes widened. You would risk that? For me? Cade's expression was fierce. We would risk anything for you. And it is not really a risk. Good men are hard to find, harder to keep. The ones worth keeping do not care who we share our bed with, just that we are fair and honest, that we stand by our word, that we protect what is ours. Jamie sat up slowly, trying to process. So we just, what? Act like this is normal? Carter's smile was gentle. It is normal. For us. The world does not get to define what family means, what love looks like. We do. Jamie looked around the small room, at the 3 men who had upended his entire world in the span of 2 days. This is really happening, he said wonderingly. You are really saying I can stay, that we can be, together, like this. Cade pulled him close. We are not just saying it, we are promising it. You are ours now, Jamie Dawson, and we take care of what is ours. The days that followed fell into a rhythm that felt almost dreamlike in its simplicity. Jamie moved his few belongings into the main house, into the large bedroom the brothers shared. The ranch hands noticed, of course, but as Carter had predicted, most simply nodded and went about their work. A few left, packed their gear, and rode out without a word. Cade let them go without argument. Better to know now than later, he said. Better they leave than stay and cause trouble down the line. And new hands came, men who did not ask questions, who saw 4 people building something together and respected it. Jamie threw himself into the work with renewed energy. The ranch became more than just a job. It became home in a way nowhere else ever had. He was good with the horses, better than good. Under his care, even the most troubled animals gentled, learned to trust. The parallel was not lost on Jamie. He was like those horses, skittish, scarred, expecting pain, but with patience, with consistency, with hands that held firm but never cruel. He was learning to trust too, learning that not everyone would hurt him, that some people kept their promises. Nights were for them. The 4 of them in the big bed Cade had built with his own hands, learning each other. Sometimes it was gentle, sweet explorations that left Jamie breathless with wonder. Other times it was fierce, desperate, years of wanting compressed into hours of finally having. The brothers taught him what his body could feel, how to give pleasure and receive it without shame, how to ask for what he wanted instead of waiting to be given scraps. And Jamie learned. Oh, how he learned, discovered parts of himself he never knew existed, found joy in surrender, strength in vulnerability, freedom in letting go. But it was not just about the physical. It was mornings watching the sunrise together, afternoons working side by side in comfortable silence, evenings on the porch sharing stories and whiskey and laughter. It was Cade teaching Jamie to read the land, to see water where others saw only dust. Carter sharing his books, opening worlds of knowledge Jamie had never dared dream of. Cole's music, the fiddle he pulled out on quiet nights, playing songs that made Jamie's heart ache with their beauty. It was all of it. Every small moment building into something larger, something real, something worth fighting for. The first real test came on a trip into town. They needed supplies. Jamie had been at the ranch for 3 months, and Cade insisted he come along. Show his face, prove he was not a prisoner or worse. The town of Redemption was small, dusty, the kind of place where everyone knew everyone else's business. They rode in together, 4 men on horseback, and Jamie felt every eye track their movement, felt the whispers start before they even hitched their horses. Cade's hand found the small of Jamie's back, steadying, claiming. Let them look, he murmured. Let them wonder. We have nothing to hide. The general store was run by a woman named Martha, gray-haired, sharp-eyed. She looked them over as they entered, her gaze lingering on Jamie. You must be the new hand everyone is talking about. Her tone was neutral, impossible to read. Jamie nodded, throat tight. Yes, ma'am. Jamie Dawson. She studied him a moment longer, then nodded. Welcome to Redemption, Mr. Dawson. I hope you find what you're looking for here. The words seemed to carry weight, meaning beyond the surface. Jamie met her eyes and saw understanding, maybe even approval. Thank you, ma'am. I think I already have. Not everyone was so kind. At the saloon, a drunk cowhand made comments, loud enough to carry, about men who were not really men, about unnatural acts, about what should be done to degenerates. Cole's hand went to his gun, but Cade stopped him with a look. The drunk kept talking, getting bolder, meaner, until Carter stood, walked over calm as Sunday, and laid the man out with one punch. The saloon went silent. Carter looked around, meat in every eye. Anyone else have something to say? No one did. They finished their drinks and left, and the message was clear. The Colt brothers would not start fights, but they would finish them. That night, Jamie lay awake long after the others had fallen asleep. Today had shown him the truth. This life they were building would never be easy. There would always be people who hated them for what they were, who wanted to see them punished, destroyed. But there would also be people like Martha, who saw them and understood, who might not approve but would not condemn. And there were the brothers, who would fight for him, die for him if necessary, just as he would for them. It was not a perfect life, but it was theirs. And that was enough. Winter came hard and fast that year. Snow piled high. The work became brutal. 16-hour days breaking ice on water troughs, hauling hay to half-frozen cattle, fighting to keep animals alive in temperatures that dropped low enough to kill. But inside the house, inside their bed, it was warm. The four of them tangled together for heat, for comfort, for the simple reassurance that they were not alone in the dark. Jamie learned what it meant to be part of something bigger than himself, to work toward a common goal, to trust that if he fell, someone would catch him, to know that his strength could shore up another's weakness, and theirs could do the same for him. Spring brought new challenges, calving season, sleepless nights in the barn, blood and birth and loss and triumph. Jamie delivered his first calf alone, hands shaking, heart pounding, terrified he would do it wrong. But Cade talked him through it, voice calm even when the situation was anything but. And when the calf finally slipped free, wet and wobbling and alive, Jamie felt something shift in his chest. Pride, belonging, the bone-deep knowledge that this was where he was meant to be, doing this work, with these men, building this life one day at a time. Summer was easier, long days and short nights, work that was hard but not desperate. They expanded the herd, built new fences, hired on 2 more hands. The ranch was thriving, and so was Jamie. The gaunt, haunted look had left his face, replaced by sun-bronzed skin and muscle earned through honest labor. He smiled more, laughed freely, let himself be touched without flinching, let himself touch in return. The change was so gradual, he did not notice it happening. Until one day he caught his reflection in the water trough and barely recognized the man staring back. This man looked happy, settled, sure of his place in the world. One evening, as they sat on the porch watching the sunset paint the sky in shades of fire, Cade spoke. "Been thinking, we should make this official." Jamie looked over, confused. "Make what official?" "This." Cade gestured between them. "Us, the ranch, everything. I want your name on the deed, Jamie. Equal partner, equal say in how things are run." Jamie's breath caught. "You do not have to do that. I know I do not have to." Cade met his eyes. "I want to. We all do. You're not just a hand anymore. You are family. And family takes care of each other, protects each other, builds together." Carter nodded. "We have been talking about it, the 3 of us. You have proven yourself a dozen times over, proven you are committed to this, to us, to the life we are building. It is only right that you have a real stake in it. Security, a future." Cole grinned. "Besides, if something happens to one of us, God forbid, we want to know you are protected, that you cannot be thrown off your own land by some distant relative looking to cash in." Jamie could not speak around the lump in his throat. "You would do that for me? Put me on equal footing?" Cade's smile was soft. "You already are, Jamie. We are just making it legal." They rode into Redemption the next week, all 4 of them, walked into the land office, and signed the papers. Jamie Dawson, equal owner of Colts Ridge Ranch. The clerk looked at the unusual arrangement. 4 men, equal shares. But he took their money and filed the paperwork without comment. As they left, Jamie felt lighter than air, like he might float away if the brothers were not there to anchor him. A year ago, he had nothing. No home, no family, no future. Now he had all three, and more. He had love, had purpose, had proof that miracles could happen even to broken people who thought they were beyond saving. That night they celebrated, just the four of them, good whiskey, better company. And later, in the privacy of their room, they showed Jamie exactly what it meant to belong, to be claimed, to be loved by three men who wanted nothing more than to make him happy, to keep him safe, to build a life alongside him that honored who they all were. No hiding, no shame, just fierce, honest desire and the commitment to see it through no matter what the world threw at them. Jamie surrendered completely, let them take him apart and put him back together. Let himself be vulnerable in ways he never thought possible, and found that on the other side of fear was freedom, the kind that came from being truly deeply known and loved anyway. The years passed like that. Hard work and harder winters, droughts that tested them, market crashes that threatened everything. But they survived, thrived even. The ranch grew. Their reputation spread. The Colt brothers and their partner. 4 men who ran the finest operation in 3 territories, who paid fair, worked hard, and did not tolerate fools or bigots. People learned to respect them, or at least to stay out of their way. And in redemption, slowly, attitudes shifted. Other men like them began to appear, quietly at first, then more openly, finding in the Colt ranch a model, proof that different did not mean wrong. That love took many forms. That family could be chosen. Jamie's 25th birthday dawned clear and bright. 5 years since that first day, he had ridden up to find 3 identical strangers staring at him like he was the answer to a prayer they had not known they were praying. Cade woke him with kisses, Carter with coffee, Cole with laughter and a badly wrapped present. They spent the day together, not working, just being. Riding out to the ridge where Cade had first told Jamie he did not have to run anymore, looking down at the valley below, at the ranch they had built together, the life they had carved from dust and determination, and refusal to accept anyone else's definition of normal. Happy? Cade asked, his arm around Jamie's shoulders. Jamie looked at him, at Carter and Cole standing close, at the land spread before them, at the sky so blue it hurt, at the promise of another day, another night, another year of this impossible perfect life. Happy does not even begin to cover it, Jamie said honestly. I never thought I could have this. Never dreamed someone like me deserved. He broke off, voice thick. You taught me I was wrong, that I deserve everything, love, home, a future. You gave me all of that. Carter shook his head gently. You gave it to yourself, Jamie, by being brave enough to stop running, to let yourself be seen. We just got lucky enough to be there when you did. Cole pulled out his fiddle, started playing soft and sweet, a melody that spoke of home and longing and finding where you belong. Cade held Jamie close. Carter's hand found his, and standing there on that ridge with the sun warming their faces and the wind carrying Cole's music, Jamie finally understood. This was grace. This was redemption. This was everything the preachers had promised him heaven would be, but insisted he could never have. They had been wrong. Heaven was not some distant reward for suffering. It was here, now, in the arms of 3 men who loved him, on land that bore his name, in a life built on truth instead of lies, in the freedom to be exactly who he was without apology or fear. As the sun began its descent, painting the sky in shades of amber and rose, they made their way back down to the ranch, to the house that was theirs, to the bed they shared, to the life they had fought for and won. That night, wrapped in familiar arms, Jamie thought about the boy he had been. Scared, alone, convinced he was broken beyond repair, convinced he would spend his entire life hiding, running, pretending to be someone he was not. If he could go back, if he could tell that boy what waited for him, he would say this: "You are not broken, you are not wrong, you are not alone. And one day, you will ride up to a ranch in the middle of nowhere, and 3 men will look at you like you hung the moon, like you are the missing piece they have been searching for, and you will finally understand that you were never meant to hide. You were meant to be found, and loved, and claimed, and kept." In the years that followed, Jamie would think of that often. When times were hard, when prejudice reared its ugly head, when the world tried to tell them that what they had was wrong, sinful, impossible. He would remember that first night, the choice to stop running, the decision to reach for what he wanted instead of settling for what he thought he deserved. And he would know, deep in his bones, that he had made the right choice, that this life, this love, these men, they were worth every struggle, every sacrifice, every moment of fear he had conquered to get here. Because in the end, the only thing that mattered was this: 4 souls who had found each other in the dust and decided to build something beautiful, something real, something that would outlast them all. The ranch became legendary, not just for the quality of its stock or the skill of its owners, but for what it represented: sanctuary, a place where men like them could exist without fear, could build lives and families that honored truth over tradition. Jamie and the Colt brothers never set out to be pioneers. They just wanted to live honestly, love openly, build something that was theirs. But in doing so, they changed the valley, changed attitudes, changed what was possible. Other ranches followed their model. Other men found courage in their example. And slowly, painfully, the world began to shift, to make room for people who did not fit the mold, who loved differently, who built families from choice instead of blood. Years turned to decades. Hair grayed. Bodies that had once been young and strong learned the ache of age. But through it all, they had each other. 4 men who had chosen each other, who had built an empire from nothing but will and work and refusal to accept no for an answer. On Jamie's 50th birthday, they sat on that same porch, older now, weathered by time and sun and life, but together, still choosing each other every single day. Cade's hand found Jamie's, worn and calloused but warm, familiar. Home. "No regrets?" Cade asked. Jamie looked at him, at Carter dozing in his chair, at Cole tuning his fiddle with patient fingers, at the land spread before them, the legacy they had built. "Not one," Jamie said firmly. "Not a single one. This life. You 3. It is everything I never knew I needed, everything I was too scared to want. And I would do it all again, every hard moment, every fight, every sacrifice, just to end up right here, right now, with you." Cade smiled, leaned over, kissed Jamie soft and sweet, like they had all the time in the world. Because they did. They had built this, earned it, fought for every moment of peace, every second of happiness. And it was theirs. No one could take it away. Not anymore. The sun set on Colt's Ridge Ranch, on 4 men who had dared to love in a world that said they should not, who had built a life that honored truth over fear, who had shown that family was not about blood. It was about choice, about commitment, about showing up every day and choosing each other, again and again and again, until death itself would not be enough to break the bonds they had forged. And when that day came, when time finally claimed its due, they went knowing they had lived fully, loved completely, built something that would outlast them. The ranch still stands, passed to others who understood its significance, who kept the tradition alive, a place of sanctuary, of acceptance, of love in all its forms. And sometimes, on quiet evenings, when the wind blows just right, people swear they can hear fiddle music drifting from the ridge, can see four figures on horseback against the sunset, riding home, together, always together, as they were meant to be. From that first moment, Jamie rode through the gate with fear in his heart and hope he did not dare acknowledge. To the last breath they took, with hands entwined and hearts at peace. They were family, they were home, they were everything.